So, I recently uploaded a video talking about a GameGrumps live show I attended towards the end of June of this year. In that video, I stated how I hadn't been a regular watcher of the Grumps until about a year before I went to the show. What I failed to mention was that during the summer of last year, when I really started to get hooked on the show, is also when I began listening to two of its associated acts, Ninja Sex Party and Starbomb. Starbomb is its own other can of worms, and I'll have plenty of time to talk about that later, but for now, let's focus on NSP. Unlike GameGrumps, I really didn't know what NSP was prior to listening to it after I got hooked on the GameGrumps. That I had at least heard of and seen the occasional clip or a one-off episode of. NSP, I really don't have any recollection of hearing anything from until around July of 2021. And all I can say after having listened to a vast majority of their discography is better late than never. I have grown a real fondness for these two over the past year I've been listening to them. Comedy music, I think, is something that can appeal to just about anyone. Pretty much everybody likes music to some degree, and who doesn't like to laugh? It ticks all the right boxes to really make an impact on people. Both Danny and Brian seem like really chill-ass dudes that anybody would be lucky to have in their lives. They're both tremendously talented, and I've been meaning to make a little love letter to them for some time. Well, Dan already kinda got his turn, but this time I'll be turning my attention to his capabilities as a singer-songwriter, and of course spotlighting Ninja Brian as well. Boy, how cool must it be to be a part of two iconic internet duos? Most of us are lucky enough to be a part of one, but two? Get out of here. I wonder how Dan feels about that. I'd ask him if I could. Oh well, getting back on track, I wanted to dedicate some sort of video to these guys, and I decided, why don't I just make a top 10 list of my favorite songs of theirs? So that's exactly what I'm doing. Now, it was a bitch of a time trying to narrow the list down to just 10 because there are so many good songs, and I'll be honest, I considered just making this a top 15 list just so that I could include 5 more showcases of their musical genius, but I refrained from doing that. Instead, I just faced the truth that I'd have to soul-crushingly leave some really great songs off the list. Such is the nature with top 10 videos, I suppose. Now before we begin, I'd like to make one thing very clear. I am not a professional comedian nor a musician. I'm not really good at judging what makes great comedic writing or songwriting, or even great music. This is all just based around personal opinion, and honestly, if I did this on a different day, I'd probably have a different list, so this list doesn't necessarily have to be the end-all be-all. Oh, and one more thing, some of the songs on this list actually have 2 versions. See, in 2021, NSP released the Level Up album, which featured re-recorded and remastered versions of several of their older songs, a number of which will be on this list. I'm mostly going to be ignoring the Level Up version simply for the fact that any songs featured in this list that received a Level Up version would have ended up on the list regardless of whether or not a remastered edition existed. Just take it on good faith that these songs would have been on the list anyway, and that the Level Up album's existence doesn't change the rankings at all. Now, with that said, on with the ranking.
We are Ninja Sex Party, musically seducing all the hotties. Brian's a ninja, Danny's a hot Jew, and we are best friends. Yeah, we are best friends, it's true. Don't try to stop us, we're on a mission. Every girl must now make the decision which to have sex with. No need to answer unknowns. Danny Sexman, he's the handsomer of the two.
Number 10.
Starting off with the title track from NSP's third album, Attitude City. Now this is a badass banger to be sure, and as will become a theme with this list, it's a song that really hits that perfect middle ground between being funny and also just being a bop. As with any song, you have to balance the instrumental with the lyrics, and they're both great here. The whole shtick with the song is that it's badass music and a badass tone with soft lyrics, and yeah, it's funny, but it's also just a jam in general. It's kind of a headbanger, to be honest. I know I just said I wouldn't be mentioning the Level Up album much here, but I really want to draw attention to just how much a more complex, beefier sound really benefits a song like this especially. I think Attitude City might be my favorite song for a Level Up version on that entire album. But even without the enhanced version, this song is still very fun and catchy. Not that catchiness is a solid indicator of quality, but whatever. It really demonstrates this group's ability to make a song that's both very funny and just kinda slaps, like, as a song. It's not the best example of this from NSP, but it's a pretty good one, and that's why I'm kind of settling it nicely at number 10 on the list. It's a really great encapsulation of just kind of what NSP is all about, without going above and beyond in any one category. It's a jack of all trades, king of none in regards to the lyrics, and instrumentation, and comedic value, and that's okay. If you just want to kind of get the gist of what NSP is and what they have to offer, but don't want to dive head first into their really good stuff, and just kind of want to test the waters and see if NSP is your jam, this is a pretty good place to start. Not my absolute favorite, but pretty good nonetheless, and a worthy start to this list.
Here comes some tough guys from the town trying to steal my crown. I'll take all your hope that just can't. Now let's throw the fuck
Number 9.
Who doesn't love it when NSP brings the funk? It's not super common, but when it does happen, it's always a treat. This acronymic song comes from NSP's second album, Strawberries and Cream, and is one of the better showcases of NSP's lyricism being not only funny, but actually pretty clever and creative. It's a song all about initials and acronyms, mostly sexual ones. This is NSP after all, but it all just flows together so nicely. The way they take all these acronyms and initials and basically turn them into a song is a really great idea that they must have thrown their all into. Think about it, at least like a third, probably more of this song is just letters, not even actual words, and it still comes out just being a great, fun, and most surprisingly, catchy tune. It's a really fun song to memorize and remember all the various body part related initials and how they just go in perfect sequence with one another. One particular standout. Like, come on, that's just brilliant to me. But moving on from the lyrics, the song is just plain funky. I really like the instrumental for this song. For how hypersexual this band, their discography, and the persona of its singer is, it's surprisingly rare to have an instrumental that's just straight up porn music, but it's really great here. FYI, I Wanna F Your A is definitely a standout from the Strawberries and Cream album, and it's honestly a song that's held up pretty well, all things considered. Like, there's some earlier NSP songs that I like and everything, but I still hear them and think, oh, this is clearly early NSP, it's fun, but it's a little primitive and all that. I can't say that for this song. Aside from the instrumentation being a little thin in some areas, this song stacks up just as well as it did when it first came out, I'd imagine. And that is no small feat.
Then your M, then your T's, then your V, then your A again. If you want me to F your A, say yeah!
Number 8.
Now, I'm gonna be honest. I'm not a huge fan of the original The Decision song from the NSFW album. It's not one of my favorites on that album, let alone their entire discography. I understand that it's iconic, and I still do enjoy it, but it's never really been a personal favorite of mine. Their sequel, released 10 years later, however, is a different story. This is a great example of a perfect update and a perfect celebration. To give some context, this was the song used to celebrate 10 years of Ninja Sex Party, and to celebrate such a momentous occasion, they went back to their very second song, The Decision, and made a sequel. And this really is one of those rare instances where the sequel is better than the original. I like that it starts off pretty much the same as the first Decision, but then goes into a new beat, it's all building up and reintroducing the elements, and then, my favorite part, this.
Now's your second chance, congrats in advance. We're all grown up and ready for romance. Now maybe we can help you out, 'cause Brian and I are still single somehow.
That beat drop, just jolting us from old NSP to modern NSP is so, chef's kiss. And then everything from there is simply magical. Going through all the old songs and referencing them in so many ways, and of course showing off just how much they've grown in the intervening years since the original, it's so good, and I absolutely love the reincorporation and maximization of Brian's Got an STD. That is just one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard in my life. It's magical, not much else to say. This song just ticks all the right boxes, showing reverence for the original while also upping the ante in every way imaginable. It's a great sequel song and a wonderful celebration of 10 years of Ninja Sex Party. It almost feels wrong to have it this low on the list, but that's just how the ranking went. As wonderful as this song is, there's still plenty more that I like even better. But take it as a sign, this is when the list transitioned from good to great.
Went to 69, 69. Learned that I was cool as fuck just on the inside. How do you dream through the night of your dreams?
Number 7.
Second offender from the Attitude City album, and yet another very catchy, fun to listen to jam that just puts me in a good mood whenever I hear it, but taken to an even bigger extreme. Also, much like FYI I Wanna F Your A, this shows NSP at some of their best lyrically. This time around, instead of interweaving initials and acronyms into their song, they're turning to cities and other locations, whatever, places. This song's whole deal is going all around the country, and later world, and nutting everywhere. Now, while that's already a pretty great setup for a song, if they didn't bring the heat with their lyrical prowess, it'd all be for nothing. But that's what's so great about NSP. They could take a song idea that, in a vacuum, you'd probably look at and not think far beyond, it's kind of funny, and turn it into a really good song. Again, I gotta point to the catchiness. I know, catchy doesn't equal good, but I'm sorry. If you can make rattling off a bunch of city names and then finding synonyms for splooging both humorous, but also turn it into an earworm, that's gotta say something about your songwriting abilities. Or it could not, I have no idea. But there's something to be said for how this song just escalates. Like, we start with just cities and just in the US, then we go to countries all around the world, and then we go all the way up into space, and it's like, what a great way to just go from point A to point B to point C. It's like a 3-act structure, a complete story. It's great. This whole thing is pretty great in all honesty, combining all the sex puns and other sex-related stuff with a fun, just easy listening experience. I can listen to this song anytime and enjoy it. And that's really a common theme with all these coming up, that ability to just listen to any of these songs. Maybe you're in a shitty mood and you just hear a song like this, and it all melts away. That's the power of songs like Road Trip. Next number.
No time for space suits, I am way too horny. Let's show this galaxy what's
Number 6.
This may be my most contentious pick on the list. I feel like a lot of other people would probably put this at number 1 if they decided to make their own list of NSP songs. And while, as evident by it only being number 6, I wouldn't go quite that far, it is still a really good song. Cool Patrol in general is one of their best albums in my opinion, and this is a real standout from that. While most NSP songs, much as I love them, are somewhat shallow and tend to speak more to the genitals than anything else, this song instead speaks to the soul. Starting off slow, almost melancholic, but gradually building and building to an explosive finale that just blows your balls off. Refreshingly, there's absolutely no sex or any real sexual overtones to this song, because that's not what this one's about. It's a serious, soulful tune about maturing, becoming the person you were always meant to be, and how the lamest, most awkward loser of today can become the coolest, most handsome, dare I say, sexiest man of tomorrow. But that's just my interpretation. I'm aware that there are many different things one could get from this song, and I'm not here to claim that what I got out of it is the definitive answer. This seems like it's one of NSP's most popular songs. So many people just love it and the positive message or messages that it spread. And it really seems like it's touched a lot of people. I mean, like differently than the other ones have. Again, more of a soul toucher than a genital toucher. And you know what? That's really great. I fully understand, and I love this song as well. But that might beg the question for some of you, if it seems like the song has it all, why isn't it higher on the list? Well, to be completely real with you, It's because this list is entirely based on personal opinion, and there are simply songs in NSP's discography that I return to more and that I find more personal enjoyment in, and those are what's gonna come next. So let's start off the top 5 with...
Number 5.
Well, this is a song that certainly embodies NSP's sexy sexual feel, unlike the last one. How funny then that this one comes right before Danny Don't You Know on the album's playlist. Yet another standout Cool Patrol track, Orgy for One is just a feel-good, upbeat, fun song, and let it be known that the title is not a synonym for masturbation, because as the song itself says...
Not just masturbation, it's an orgy for one. It's a fucking celebration, it's an orgy for one.
Yeah, that'll show you. Like I said, this song is just pure fun, really great to listen to. I hear it anytime and it lifts my spirits. I feel like that's an aspect that NSP always gets right, but as we get closer to the bottom of the list, that'll become more and more prevalent. That re-listenability, that whenever this song comes on, I'm a get down factor. Once again, this song also benefits from an intriguing setup that allows the songwriting to shine and takes an idea that you might chuckle at and then think nothing of it into something just completely awesome. It's an orgy, but no one showed up. Oh no, what to do? No matter, just celebrate on your own. I also think that there might be some positive messages in that, honestly. Like, you don't need other people around to have a good time, and that you can be perfectly content just celebrating on your own. I don't know, I think there's something there. Even if I'm just reading too deep into it, I still really like the song. I like the guitar solo in there. Twerp really fucking bringing it with these past few NSP albums. I've gone on about this. Again, it's a song that's really good, but I can only find so many ways to put that into words. It's just a great, fun tune, just a solid few minutes of absolute glory. I've gone on about it long enough. Listen to it if you haven't already.
Number 4.
You know, I think Attitude City might just be my favorite album. I mean, Cool Patrol definitely isn't far behind, but in terms of the albums I like the most and that I think of the highest concentration of real bangers, I feel like Attitude City might have it. I think it might just come out on top. And that's really interesting because it was the last album that was done with just Danny and Brian. Everything afterwards was with the help of Twerp, and the first original album with them is probably my second favorite album, so I don't know, but all that aside, Dragon Slayer is just fucking awesome. It had better be. This song's all about impressing someone, and while by the end of it, it doesn't seem to work on the lady Danny was pursuing throughout the song, it sure as hell impressed me with just how sick this song is. I really like how it just keeps going, getting more and more absurd as Danny keeps rattling off all the crazy shit he totally did, no exaggeration whatsoever. And that combined with the just epic sounding instrumental, it's fantastic. There's a certain effect this song has on me. I can't quite properly articulate, but it just gets me in the mood. Mood for what? I don't know, but whatever that mood is, it's got me in it. I also want to briefly touch upon how this song is aged, because it's an older one, but listening to this and a lot of other older NSP songs, I was kind of surprised by how non-creepy they are. Like, yeah, the whole song is about Danny pursuing a girl who clearly isn't interested, and that's made evident by the end, but it's not really shown as a bad thing. The punchline of the song is that all that charm didn't work and the lady isn't interested. That's the joke, that all that bluster proved ineffective. That's just something I noticed. I absolutely adore Dragon Slayer. It just barely made it out of the top 3. It was super close, but alas, there's 3 more that I like even better.
I brought the dragon right to you. It's the one that's true, and the test of the story is totally true.
Number 3.
Now, when you hear words like iconic or classic in a musical context, certain things may come to mind. Different things depending on who you are. But for me, one of those is Dinosaur Laser Fight. In my opinion, this is really around the time where NSP truly found their voice, so to speak, and really started to settle into what we know them as today. This song is serotonin incarnate, plain and simple. What I mentioned about Dragon Slayer getting me in the mood, but not really knowing what that mood was, applies here, but I know the mood that this song puts me in. Happy. It makes me just feel joyful and energized, like Orgy for one, but to an even greater extent. I just want to jump up and sing along, and I will sing along and not get a single lyric wrong, because good lord, the catchiness is off the charts with this one. But it's a song where I don't really mind it being stuck in my head. When it pops up and I start humming along, I don't get annoyed. I just embrace it, because I love this song and can listen to it over and over again without getting sick of it. It's quite a short song, a lot of earlier NSP songs are, but it's not one where I'm left yearning for more. It feels like a perfect length. It's a complete adventure. It doesn't feel like anything was cut short. This song is under 2 minutes of sheer bliss. One additional note about this song though. For whatever reason, all live recordings of this song I've seen, and even the level up version, use a slower, less upbeat version of the song than what was heard on the initial NSFW album. I like that version, and I'm fine with the fact that it exists, but I still prefer the original with the faster tempo and more energetic feel to it. It's my preferred version, and I wish they'd perform that version live at some point.
Holy shit!
Number 2.
Remember a couple spots back when I said Attitude City was my favorite album, but that Cool Patrol wasn't far behind? Well, this is why. 4 out of the top 5 spots on this list are Attitude City and Cool Patrol songs. And I realize that means I kinda gave away what album the next song would be from, but while you try to guess that, just know that this is my favorite song from Cool Patrol. It actually sounds kinda similar to Orgy to 1 listening to it, similar tempo and key and all that, but I prefer this one mostly for what the song is actually about. It's a really funny idea, kind of a fun, upbeat tune about taking a girl on a first date, but it's also about killing people, stealing shit, and causing a ruckus. It's really funny, but also kind of sweet at the same time. I'm a little concerned at how this song manages to make robbery, murder, grand larceny, among other things, just sound so delightful. But who gives a shit? Who doesn't love a song about having a blast doing all the things that normal people would never do? It's like fantasy. NSP is the ultimate escapist fantasy, just out there doing and saying all the things you wish you could and then making songs about it. Once again, as NSP's first original album made in collaboration with Twerp, the instrumental sounds fantastic. I like some of the retro 80s synthesizer sounds they mixed in along with the other instruments. It's some subtle 80s homage, so I suppose it's better than being beaten over the head with it, which is what some would choose to do. I really, for a long time, thought that this was going to be number 1. Like, I was convinced. It seemed like the song had everything. And it does. It's still number 2, which is not a small feat, and I think it deserves it very much, but in terms of the big picture and the whole all-encompassing NSP experience, there is one song that just barely beats it out. Let's get to it.
Let's kill 5 guys tonight. I'll take you back to your place and we'll craft a perfect alibi. Man, we had fun tonight. We're young and alive, and you can call me anytime. Good first date. Want to do it again next week? No? Oh, alright.
But before I can do that, a few quick honorable mentions. Okay, now that that shit's out of the way, let's move on to number 1.
Number 1.
Alright, so the best way I can put this is that in terms of which song I would show someone who's never heard of NSP before, I can't say it would be this one. But in terms of a song that truly maximizes and emphasizes everything that NSP is, it would be this song. Nay, this epic opera of musical perfection. Now some of you might wonder, well, if that's the criteria, then why isn't Mystic Crystal here instead? In fact, why isn't it anywhere on the list? Well, see, that's the thing. Even though Mystic Crystal is longer, more elaborate, and arguably dethroned 6969 as NSP's magnum opus, I just don't like it as much. This comes from Attitude City, which I already said may be my favorite album of them all, and honestly, this and First Date were pretty neck and neck while I was doing this ranking, but 6969 just barely won out, again, very much because it feels like it was truly taking NSP to the next level. And even throughout, it's cool how it not only tells a story through music, but it even kind of ties into what NSP's whole deal is. A story of them traveling to a sex-deprived 6969, where they have to reintroduce boning to the world in order to save it from the evil, prudish dick elders. That's awesome! It also just sounds really good, obviously. I'm glad that this was one of the songs they deemed worthy of giving a level up version to, but even without that, I still think the song sounds great considering the era of NSP it was introduced in. Everything about this song is on point. The lyrics, on point. The instrumental, on point. The fucking plot, on point. It really feels like a celebration of NSP, a melting pot of everything that made and continues to make this band fantastic. It's all here. Sex, ridiculous shit, more sex, more ridiculous shit, an actually good song underneath all the sex and ridiculous shit. Okay, so maybe it's actually pretty simple just what this band is all about, but I'm a person of simple pleasures, so what if NSP is simple, when it is most certainly pleasurable? 6969 is like the definitive NSP song, an assemblage of everything that they are and that they try to be. If this was like the finale or whatever to the entire NSP journey, I can't say I'd feel cheated, but I'm glad it wasn't. And that's it, that's all I've got for this list. Let me know what your personal rankings or top 10 or top whatever would be in the comments. I realize that I've already made 3 videos about kind of similar subject matter. If you're sick of that, then don't worry, I'll be done with GameGrumps and NSP for a while. Next video is going to be something totally different, I promise, but until said video comes, see ya.